What's going on, everyone? So I can always get on board with investigations or reviews or any type of explanations on food because I don't know if you guys know this, but if you've realized yet so far from my videos, I really cannot stand the food in America for the most part. Basically what they've been putting into our food over the last 3 decades drives me nuts. So today we're having a European nutritionist explain why American food is so unhealthy. Actually, now that I think about it, it's been a while since I've done something on food. So really interested. Let's hop into this and see what Felix Harder has to say about American food and why it's absolute dog shit. All right, buckle up. Let's go.
Let me start by saying that I love the United States. I used to live there as a teenager and I've always admired the people, the optimism, and the anything is possible attitude. It's a country full of ambition and energy. The optimism is super contagious, the landscape is incredible, and the whole you can do anything if you try hard enough mindset was very inspiring to me.
Now, before he gets in and absolutely roasts our food, really nice that he said that. I can appreciate it. Thanks, Felix. Glad somebody notices the optimism, the friendliness. You know, we're not all a-holes. Okay, let's keep going.
But there's one thing that's very hard to overlook and that I want to talk about in this video. The quality of the food. When I would walk through the aisles of your average supermarket, most things just seemed a little too artificial for my taste. Bright neon cereals, cheese in a can, ultra-sweet bread, meats injected with fillers. It sometimes seemed more like a chemistry lab than a grocery store. Now feel free to disagree, but I know that many Americans often complain about this too. And when you look at health statistics, for example, the skyrocketing rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, then it does seem to indicate that there is something about the food system that isn't working. So what's going on? Most people will point fingers at things like weak regulations, FDA loopholes, or big corporations cutting corners to boost profits. And sure, those things absolutely play a role. But there is another layer to it that's often overlooked in my opinion.
Where's he going? I'm so curious. Trying to think. Okay, well, let's just see. I felt like that's what the video was going to be about, some of those details, but it seems like he's got something else.
I haven't seen this discussed online anywhere. So I wanted to share my opinion on it as someone from Europe, but who often creates content for Americans or at least people from the Anglosphere. I actually believe a big part of the difference between European and American food comes down to openness to innovation. Let me explain. The US is arguably the most innovative country in the world. It's the land of Silicon Valley, biotech startups, venture capital, and people constantly chasing the next big thing. New equals exciting, which equals progress. It's a mindset that has led to incredible breakthroughs in industry, technology, entertainment, and other areas. So basically any area of life where new usually means better. But when that same mindset gets applied to food, things get a little weird. New food products might be cheaper, they might be faster to make, or have a longer shelf life, but they're usually worse compared to what we had before. Think about some of the food upgrades that we got over the last, let's say, 70 years. Butter was swapped out for margarine, whole local produce was replaced by shelf-stable packaged goods, farms that used to grow a variety of crops started producing just one or two, using tons of fertilizer and pesticides. And then artificial sweeteners, food dyes, and preservatives became standard ingredients in almost everything from bread to salad dressing. Most of these changes were introduced in the name of progress, efficiency, and of course consumer demand. But they didn't make the food healthier, just more convenient.
Yeah, what they do is they add all of this stuff in. And I've seen a couple of videos on like supermarkets in Europe, different countries within Europe. I think I saw some in Germany, I saw some in the UK. And I've noticed that it's just not as big, much smaller, because it's kind of pointless. And I would imagine the food that's in Europe and is on the shelves doesn't have as long as a shelf life. And with the consumerism mentality in America, our supermarkets are very large, massive. If you guys have never seen a super Walmart before, you know, I think you guys have Costco, but Costco's a big one. When you walk in, we go to the vegetable aisle, the meat aisle, and possibly a couple other aisles in the store. There will be a 25 aisles of food. And when you walk down them, it's just walls of garbage that has been sitting there, and they put all these preservatives and crap in our food dyes so that it can sit on the shelf for a very long time because eventually someone's going to come across and buy it. To whereas I'm assuming in European supermarkets, why I've seen them so much smaller is because, hey, there's not as long as a shelf life. So getting kind of on a rant, I want to get back to it. It's just, I had to get that out.
Well, compare that to Europe. European countries are also modern and developed, but they tend to have a much more cautious relationship with food. There's more resistance to food tech and a stronger connection to traditional ways of eating. Cheese is still aged and fermented, not sprayed into a can. Bread is often made with just a few ingredients. Grains and dairy usually isn't fortified here, and many artificial ingredients that are common in the
US version. Corn syrup, natural flavoring, distilled vinegar. You guys have tomatoes, spirit vinegar. What is spirit vinegar? Sugar, salt, spice, herb extracts, and spice. Yeah. Why do we have to put corn syrup in everything? Yeah, it drives me crazy. I feel like usually if I grab something when we're doing our supermarket shopping, I'll grab it and my wife will just rip it out of my hand and immediately turn around and start reading it and be like, no, we're not getting that. I'm like, all right, what was in it?
Are banned in the EU. Now, I'm not saying we don't do dumb things here. The European Nutri-Score, for example, is a joke, and regulators definitely aren't immune to making mistakes. What I'm trying to point out is that I believe a big part of the difference in food is cultural. Europeans tend to see it as something that should be protected and respected, not optimized. There is a stronger sense of food heritage, and people are more skeptical of tampering with the basics. Of course, the slower, more cautious attitude also has its downsides. Europe isn't exactly leading the world in innovation right now or in economic growth. And society here definitely seems less flexible and more set in stone, which is one of the reasons the US still is the biggest destination for ambitious people. So again, outside of nutrition, experimentation is usually a good thing and it leads to newer and better ideas. But when it comes to food quality, the European resistance to change seems to have paid off, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, basic is better with food. Stick to the basics. You don't need to add all this stuff. We try and get as much food as we can from local farmers, local butchers. You know, it's kind of a staple in our house, but I just wish it was across the entire country. Europe definitely has a massive, massive leg up on us on this issue and many issues, but this is one that I personally feel and identify with. So
with other people, they often name things like the Green Revolution as a counter-argument, since it shows how important innovation is, even when it comes to foodstuff. This was a massive global shift in agriculture that started in the mid-20th century, where new crop varieties and chemical fertilizers helped first the US and then the rest of the world produce way more food than ever before. It definitely prevented a lot of famines and allowed our global population to grow like never before. I definitely don't want to downplay its importance, but even here there's a trade-off. The focus was on maximizing yield, so getting the most calories per acre, which means many modern crops are bred for size instead of nutrient content. For example, NPK fertilizer, which stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, was a core component of the Green Revolution. It's optimized for rapid growth and heavy production.
Look at this spike. Seems like 1930s, 50s, and then once we hit like 1960s, just straight up fertilizers. You know what some of the best fertilizer is? Take your eggshells from, chicken eggs and just smash those up and put that in your dirt. It works really, really well.
It's optimized for rapid growth and heavy
fresh
production,
organic eggs,
but
by the way.
It also contributed to soil degradation because repeated use will strip soil of other important micronutrients like magnesium, zinc, and selenium. The result will be crops that produce more calories, but fewer nutrients per calorie. Now, I'm not the first person to point this out, and there are smart people around the world trying to deal with these problems. All I wanted to point out in this video is that theoretically, you can have the best of both worlds. You can have innovation and quality, progress and respect for tradition. But it takes awareness and maybe a little pushback against the idea that newer automatically means better, especially when it comes to what we put in our bodies every day. So whether you're in the US, Europe, or anywhere else, I think the takeaway is that you should be more intentional about what you eat. read labels, and choose foods with fewer ingredients.
Really, really good video. I'm going to subscribe to Felix and hit the like button because that was great. I will say that one of the things I am most excited about when I come visit Europe is the food. I want to try all of it. I want to eat literally everything. And hopefully it makes me feel a whole lot better, even though we do pretty well ourselves. But all right, guys, that's it for this video. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.